again for our High Priestess chats with our tarot talks journey through the tarot that we've embarked on. And yeah, we've woven our way through the Fool and the Magician, and now we've arrived at the High Priestess. And part of this that dropped in was to connect with people who are in the Facebook group and in the community and wider community of people who I love connecting in with who are on that High Priestess path and who are on the journey of embodying what it is to be sovereign in yourself and to have balanced your dark and your lighter aspects and have come into an integration. And it's still a journey that is unfolding, but are in that place where they're offering these beautiful services to people who are finding them. And so, yeah, I'm really honored today to have Courtney Keiser with me. Courtney and I met about 2 years ago in an online community and have just really connected and stayed in touch and supported each other from then. And Courtney's been on a couple of my summits and really shared her wisdom and taken us into anger, rage rituals and all sorts of things on the beautiful summits. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with Courtney today. She really dropped on my heart straight away as someone to bring on for this kind of chat. And it's a casual chat today, a catch up. I'm going to expand my tech goddess self and attempt to monitor the Facebook group. So if anyone does have any questions, then maybe we can attempt to engage, and I'm going to expand myself into a new realm of doing these things. So bear with me with that as well. But welcome, Courtney. I'm so very excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. I am very excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So straight into the beautiful High Priestess and this expansion of how we can dive into our intuition and find ourselves on this path. Like, where did those threads start to weave into your life, as when you were younger, or what was your path to arriving into knowing that this was your expansive path?
Yeah, so I mean, I've always been connected with spirit, so it's something that I knew since I was younger that there was more than what meets the eye, that there was an invisible space, liminal space, um, as you could call it. But yeah, it's just been something that has been guided, and I feel like I've been directed towards it my whole life. It's been something that, if I'm walking in nature, when I was a little kid, I would be like in the woods by myself. And I remember talking in like another language that was made up, I thought. But I'm like, it might have been a memory of the past life where like this is the native tongue that I spoke to nature itself, right? It's like this intuitive connection with nature and these various skills that I think that I've had in past lives. I've had some visions of that, but I'll get to that later. Yeah, it's just really been an unfolding. First, it turned into just magic. And I always had an interest in mythology and various other magical teachings, right? But it wasn't until like my mid 20s that I started buying my own witchcraft books and looking into that, and then taking various witch schools and becoming an initiated high priestess myself. Um, it's just been this affirming, not destination, but path that I've taken, and every step further in it has been affirmed and just like, yes, encouraging, you're on the right path, you're on the right path. And then my abilities, my clair abilities, my connection to spirit, my intuition has only increased and expanded the more I listen to the call.
Mm, amazing, amazing. And have you felt that pull to the High Priestess and the different symbology within the card itself when you bought your first tarot deck or gifted it, or how did you come across tarot? Sometimes someone is gifted a deck and it's that expansion because they know that you're ready, or it's a seeking out of that esoteric wisdom that comes in.
Yeah, I actually started tarot later,
Mm.
after, way after I started my magical and priestess journey.
Mm.
And so, like several years after, I didn't get my first tarot deck until a few years ago,
Oh wow.
believe it or not.
Yeah.
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 I know. I went through every other divination first
Yeah.
before tarot. Tarot seemed just like very intimidating to me because there's just so many cards to remember. But then when I started getting used to the cards and being a high priestess first actually made the card make more sense to me
Hmm.
because the light and the dark pillar, right? That's something that I, ever since I was a kid, I growing up, my favorite show was Xena, and I realized that her character is literally pressed with a situation where she goes towards her shadow or towards her new lighted path, right? With her newfound wisdom and moving towards her heart space. And so it's like, that was like my show,
Mm-hmm.
like most of my life. And it's like always this light and dark, always this light and dark. And I learned how to love and honor all this darkness within myself. So it's almost like this path had been started for me. It was already selected
Mm-hmm.
before I even was, born. So I just feel like I've always been on this journey of going into the underworld, finding that wisdom, that intuition, going in the darkness, going within myself, and communing with spirit, communing with deities for that higher guidance. Yeah, that's something I very much feel connected to and guided by.
Oh, amazing, amazing. And you offer this shadow alchemist aspect to what you offer people, this trauma specialist and this shadow alchemist, and that journey of embodying the dark and the light, and what you said about the high priestess sitting in the middle in that heart space. She's mastered both. And so what was your journey into shadow work, and how did you realize that that's what you were needed to do, or like most of us, you're thrown into the dark night of the soul and figure it out yourself. So, yeah,
For that,
yeah.
it was something that, when I started looking into witchcraft, it was everywhere.
Mm.
And any time I would go on, like witch talk or something like that, it'd be like, oh, shadow work, shadow work, shadow work. So it's like, I already knew that was something that needed to happen, but I don't think I had I didn't sit down and realize I was doing shadow work. I think it was like what you're saying. It was like dark night of the soul. It was like the stripping and shedding of all of these past versions of myself that I no longer needed anymore, so that I could resonate to this higher, high priestess vibration. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. And in terms of like releasing those aspects of self, like how how do you internally process that, or did you develop your own techniques over the years, utilizing other people's aspects, and what was that kind of internal journey like? Yeah.
Yeah, so it was really interesting. I feel like in various witch schools, different magical schools, and actually the healing, journeying meditations in actual ritual space is where I first started to have my true shadow work journey, visions, things like that being brought to my awareness, being brought to me. Um, and I kind of incorporated that into that magic into my approach. So being a former therapist, I learned a lot about shadow work, but even in school, when I was learning about it, nothing really sat with me in a digestible way. It was kind of confusing and really wordy, just kind of hard to understand. It stayed very intellectual, and I had no problem understanding things. I needed to get in my body. So somatic experiencing exercises were really what took my shadow work to the next level, because I realized I had so much emotion and even thought programming just in my body that needed to be released,
Mm.
or released from there's no stories connected to it, but in this life I created these stories that were connected to it, right? But really it just needed to leave,
mm,
to be experienced, to be felt, to be honored, and then to leave.
mm,
But the I would say like the two cornerstones to shadow work is like rage release,
mm,
but not just screaming and releasing, also following with taking time to really nurture one's nervous system, doing coping and grounding skills, coming back to self and saying nice, loving things to self,
mm,
which takes me into my next cornerstone of like self love
mm,
and positive self talk. So that is what helps you get through
mm,
um, to that other side, because, you know, we've been led to believe that shadow is like something to demonize, that it's a bad part of us, it's wrong, right? But what I've learned is that shadow is really just the wounded part of us that's screaming for help. It's
mm,
like, please notice me. This is the only way you would know I was here.
mm,
If like I have to create a problem, otherwise you don't know I'm here, you
mm,
don't know I exist, right? And so there are teachers,
mm,
they our shadows are our guides to our healing, to our growth, to our expansion. And so how I honor that is like, I still get shadows, they still come up. We are always going to have the duality because that is the earthly experience, right? To master the light and dark,
mm,
how to honor that. And I think that is the dance of the high priestess, is finding the dance
mm,
that works for you,
mm, mm,
of how you can interpret, perceive these lessons in your shadow so that it works in your benefit and
mm,
you don't get trapped in the darkness, I think is the biggest lesson.
mm, mm. And in terms of like being trapped in the shadow, like it is a period of, for me anyway, and my processes was like that turnaround time where you're trapped in there is like shortened each time you do that. And so you've brought out a beautiful book recently on shadow work, which I'm sure you've got right there. Yeah. Oh my gosh, the cover is absolutely beautiful.
So
Um,
I made it.
yeah,
I designed it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Canva. It's a
Yay.
wonderful term.
I love
Canva. Love Canva.
Canva.
I'm like, Canva has changed my life in terms of an online business and just, yeah. But yeah, the advanced shadow work method. I created my own approach to help you, you know, in a modern way, figure out how to do shadow work in a way that also incorporates spirituality and magic and honoring all parts of you, and not saying like, oh, this is bad, you're bad,
Mm,
that's shameful, judge yourself. You know, it's like, no, we love everything about ourselves, and that's how we create that abundance, right? When we're blocked from what we want, it's like we still got some work to do. And so I think it's on the road to abundance, or whatever you're wanting to manifest in your life, shadow will be providing you with the answers of what's blocking you and how to exactly get there.
mm, 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 mm. Beautiful. And I love that the cover doesn't look shadowy. It's like the complete opposite. It's yeah, and a lot of, shadow work journals are, black and that darker aspect. And I love that you've gone the complete opposite with, the dark space that you're going into. But the whole idea is that you're bringing it all to the light. And I love that tunnel of colored light that you've got there as well. So yeah.
Important to me because it doesn't have to be dark and depressing,
Mm,
especially the kind of shadow work that I do, because I created a guided meditation to where I take you to meet with, see, hear from your shadow. And other shadow work methods or workbooks just have you go through and potentially re traumatize yourself asking certain questions, right? And you're not getting really, well, you might get asked some questions in this, but it's not a workbook for you to figure all that stuff out. It's more so going through my process of how I work with shadow. But um, really what we find out is just like, what are the emotional needs that you needed that were not met? And then you are told by your shadow how to meet those. And so you're given the answers of how to heal yourself, from the wounded parts. So it's like, expediting years of therapy into this one moment, right? But then the shadow work is what follows, right? How you manage to honor that agreement that you make with your shadow and meeting up as many times as it wants to meet up, saying the things that it wants you to say, that it needs to hear. All of those things is, really what makes my approach to shadow work different.
Mm.
It's a different way of looking at it and working with it.
Mm. And what's your perspective on the ego versus the shadow? And are they the same or do they overlap or how do they interact with each other? What is that aspect?
So I think they're the same
Hmm.
because the ego is something that has been built, right? And it is essentially like our sense of self from the outside world. And within ego, there's like wounded ego, right? There's like almost no separation of that. It's still ego. So it's like everything that lives there. So I will say that ego is shadow
Hmm.
because consciousness is only 5 to 10% of our waking mind at any and all times.
Hmm.
So if you think about that, I mean, granted, yes, you could be ego thinking about things, but when we're actually conscious, it's just like doing like deductive reasoning. We're quantifying, we're learning something new. It's very specific things that when we're actually conscious. So it's kind of a restructuring of understanding what it means to be conscious and when we actually are conscious and how often we actually are not.
Mm-mm-mm. Beautiful. I love that. So yeah, they are the same. And that I love and I really connected in and it's really helped me to go deeper into my processes. There's the Jungian term of integration and the integrated self, and the individuation is when you can look at those aspects of self and you've individuated all of those aspects of yourself, then you are your whole self and you can be in the world in love and not feel shame or guilt or anger or resentment and those lower vibrational thoughts and emotions, which are all connected to shadow. So if those are coming up in you, then that's a shadow. If you're feeling anger, that's a shadow. If you're feeling guilt, that's a shadow. And it's when they are, what do you feel on that? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I expand on his. I take it way further than
Yeah,
that.
it probably goes further than what I've looked at too. So I'd love it to hear it. Yeah.
I have made a whole mess of work for myself, but yeah. So what you're describing, it's that, right? It's seeing shadow in all of these different ways and the lenses that shows up, and through my approach, where we can go in and meet those shadows, then you can actually be like, oh, that's my 12-year-old self. She says she needs to be held when she feels that way.
Mm.
So then you have your like very quick tool to be like, oh yeah, okay, this is that shadow. I know I just need to sit here and rock. She'll
Mm.
feel better and give some patting and tell her that she's safe
Mm.
and
Mm.
rock her.
Yeah.
Right? It helps you identify because sometimes when we say that it can stay too intellectual, you can still know, but does that mean you're actually showing up yourself by providing the coping and grounding skills that you actually need?
Mm. 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 Mm.
Right?
Mm.
That's where the healing is. That's where the integration is are you actually doing the things that your shadow's asking you to do to integrate how you take care of yourself? Because that's how you heal shadow.
Mm. Yeah.
Right? This is a different way of self-love, but also what shadow is, I teach people how to view and see shadow through certain lenses because I'm also adding in there generational, ancestral, collective past life trauma and
Mm.
how that shows up in shadow and how you can identify that because that will show up as just blocks in your behavior, right? So like maybe you feel nervous to be seen or be visibly out there, maybe something happened to your ancestor a while ago, maybe 10 generations back,
Mm.
that they made this vow to never be seen, or they don't want to be successful and all their kin's not going to be successful, right? You don't know what kind of vow people made. Words matter, words are spells, right? And oftentimes we say things without realizing like the consequences. And so, how these things show up in even like physical illness in the body, genetic um, markers for certain diseases, I believe is trauma that's been stored in the body and passed down. And if we heal these specific things, then you won't contract that anymore. You'll actually erase it, eradicate it from your DNA, no longer passing it on,
Yeah.
right? We are not meant to hold on to trauma.
Mhm.
And I think this is the generation where we really start living life without trauma. Not that it didn't happen, but that like we don't need it influencing our DNA anymore.
We have the capabilities to move beyond it now, and the work that you're doing and people are doing, and really streamlining the information so that it's easier for people to grasp and find those techniques that are working for you, and feel that it's okay to say that you're feeling these feelings of anger and rage and hate, and let it out. And I read somewhere that all of the emotions, probably apart from love, joy, all those beautiful emotions, but all those lower density emotions only have like a finite amount of force behind them, and once you allow it all out, it depletes, and then you can get to the source of it and release it. And so, like, that's where, and that's not necessarily, I suppose, for every single thing, but if it's appropriate to do that rage ritual and to let it out and allow the voice to free it from your body if it feels like it's needed, then that is just such a pivotal moment to transform. Yeah. Yeah.
That, yeah,
Yeah.
it's so that because it's really interesting. I had a eye-opening conversation with someone who comes from a Buddhist background, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but it's very different schools of thought, right? We started seeing a lot of things of this suppression and repression, even though there's this idea that we transform and we alchemize, we transmute that anger into stillness, right? But who says that it doesn't just stay in your body for some people and will then act just like as other generations did, right? Where it stays in your body and just continues to get passed on. If someone doesn't truly know how to alchemize or transmute energies and emotions, feelings, then they're just going to keep it trapped in their body, right? And so I am bringing about this new picture idea of what life could be like where we all honor our emotions. It's a rewilding of ourselves. It is a rewilding of who we are and honor expression of every single fucking emotion and feeling that we have, feeling it, even if we look crazy in the middle of a conversation. I'm like, yeah, I don't care if it's appropriate or not. Let's feel it. Let's release it, and that become the new normal.
Mm-mm. Yes, yes, and to and when other people around us are at that space, to hold that space for people rather than shutting it down. If people are triggered, then they'll shut that down in other people. And for us all to be more self-aware that when someone's going through a process, that the best thing that you can do is just allow them to move through it fully rather than shutting it down or pandering or, oh no, you don't need to feel like that. It's okay. It's like, well, let's go deeper into it. Let's fucking pull that out, yeah, and look at it and set it free or alchemize it, as you say. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just, so many I feel like all of the complications and arguments and fights and issues, that tension that we have in our relationships and between friends, family members, people, whatever, it's all a culmination of people just not feeling their emotions, right? And then spewing on whoever's around. And it's like, God, if we all took care of our emotions, would people even fight?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
You
Exactly.
know, like
Safe
we
enough.
might all be screaming, but like, you know what? We'd be happier.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. Beautiful. And so where can people find your book online? How have you got access for that? And we'll drop that below the video.
So, Amazon is a place, but I also have a link on my website and on all my social platforms, but it will all take you to Amazon. So I will give you the Amazon link.
Yeah, amazing.
I would appreciate if you guys, then I believe the audio version will be coming out next week. So just in case anybody prefers that form, that will be
And you've
rolling out.
recorded the audiobook yourself as well, so it's your voice speaking
Good.
through, is it? Yeah, yeah. Mm-mm.
Hear me speaking.
It's great. Okay, so
Mhm.
I am multitasking and I'm monitoring the the chat. So Sophia's got, it seems the best thing that we can do is work on ourselves and be in a good spot. Yes, in a good headspace, in a good frame of mind to do our part. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
telling her, like, it's okay if you're not in a good headspace.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
Like, honor that. And um, not shaming yourself for feeling however you're feeling, but no matter what, giving yourself so much love as if you're your favorite child, kid, anything that you've ever met, to your dog, whoever it is that you pour love into, do that with yourself.
Mm-mm. Yeah, a point that dropped in my New Year's ritual that I did my very first solo New Year's, and I did a ritual
Uh-huh.
and yeah, hung out with the cat I was looking after, and we had a great New Year's. But
Yeah.
yeah, I did a card reading, and a big thing that dropped in for me is like when you go into when you go into a dark night of the soul or a tower moment or that dark period, it's when you've lost your inner child and you have allowed your internal projections of the world and your judgment of the world and self to take over, and you've lost your inner child within that, and she's swimming in darkness or he is swimming in darkness. So that came through really strong. Yeah.
Yeah. And with that information, though, being mindful of how one perceives that, because that might be true, but at the same time, can one be gentle with self and be like, it's okay. It's
Mm-mm.
okay that we did that. It's okay that we're learning that we don't know any better, that this happened, right? Because I can also see somebody in their shadows read that and be like,
Okay.
I did it. I can't believe you did this. What?
Yeah.
You can avoid that, like, and I'm sure we've all done it. Like,
Mm-mm.
that's
You
how
beat
I used to
yourself.
talk to myself.
Yeah, beat
I
yourself
was
up for it. Yeah.
spitfire,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So, yeah. So just being really gentle with yourself.
Yeah. I love that. And so, yeah, bringing a book out is such a pivotal moment in your journey. And so, what does the future look like now that this has transition point to having a book and the audiobook out on Amazon? What's next for you in terms of traveling or expanding into different things?
Yeah, so it did just come out in beginning of January. So I just got a publicist, so that's very exciting. I know, I'm like, I never thought I'd have one of those.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm signing up for, I have a class online if anybody wants to explore this further, which you can also find on my website. And I go into the guided meditation and you get a session with me if it didn't work for you. So you can receive the meditation, which is great.
Oh,
But I also, I haven't gotten any for sure yet because I just applied to things yesterday, but I plan on going to several music festivals abroad, like Boom Festival. I love dance music. I love moving my body, and it's an important thing as a priestess, I think, to just move your body and move that energy around and be connected with like-minded people and to share the wisdom. And so, like wellness festivals, like Boom and Electric Forest and Envision, Lightning in a Bottle, things like that, where there's a plethora of artists and other walks of life, and hopefully some wellness, just like weeks at retreats. So I once I have things in the books, I will let you know.
will you be offering space at those festivals too as well to for people to come and work? Is it a festival where they have healing as well, or is it more?
If that's an option, so I'm going to be doing speaking engagements more so like workshops and lectures. But if that were an option, I would definitely be willing to take some, probably only like 2 to 3 slots a day, just because I'm also there to enjoy myself. But yeah, I would definitely be open to that.
Beautiful, amazing. And that's just feels so expansive for you. I'm just feeling into that because that's like a big level of being present at a festival and doing a guest spot and speaking and just sharing what you are offering to so many more people and that access point just to so many more people feels beautiful for you. Yeah.
For she nominated me for a TED Talk, so we shall see.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, okay, talk about nervous. Okay, yep, I'm gonna have to memorize a speech or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
I might need to do a little bit of shadow work around here.
shadow work. I'm gonna do some as memorizing. Yeah, it's a whole lot. But so we shall see. But I will definitely keep you up to date with any new news.
Amazing, amazing. And so, with this high priestess journey and like bringing that wisdom in and connecting in, like she's so much about your intuition and your inner knowing. How have you really developed your intuition over the years? And what was that journey of like knowing what your inner voice sounds like, or your guides, or any of
Oh
those
wow.
aspects?
Oh wow. Um, it's been interesting. It's been a long road. Um, Gosh, I'm trying to remember like the time where it actually switched and I was like, "Oh, I know the difference." It's just always kind of felt like that. So I will say though, there's this book, Where Two Worlds Meet,
Oh yeah, wow, beautiful.
by Janet Novak. I can send this to you, but it's a pretty short book, but it's how to develop evidential mediumship. And so there's really great exercises in here that help you get connected with your intuition, connected with your psychic abilities and other clear abilities. And so doing these exercises, I was doing these like every single day for um, probably close to a year or more. And I'd be practicing with friends or whoever was around who was interested, because some you need partners with. But um, yeah, that helped a lot, just kind of escalate things. But then I believe it was a priestess initiation from nature, which I can't explain it any other way. I was in the redwoods in November, and I was talking to one of my retreat friends, and all of the ravens started making noise around, and then my body got overtaken by a surge of energy and I was vibrating and shaking. I started crying. I thought I was having a seizure.
Wow.
But I knew it wasn't a full-blown seizure, but it was like I was getting downloaded as an activation of all of this energy that I didn't know what to do with. And I thought, I'm really glad my friend was there, because I was like, what just happened? I would have thought that was like, that didn't happen. Like that was, I wouldn't know how to talk about it. And she was like, girl, I don't know what it was, but I was just holding my amulet out, like trying to soak up the charge, She was like, I feel like I witnessed a miracle. I don't know what that was. So ever since then, my spirit communication has skyrocketed. My intuition has skyrocketed. I'm getting messages, visions, like all the time.
Oh, wow. Incredible. Incredible. And you,
So
yeah.
I'm like, there's no straightforward answer with that. It's just, if you want it, keep searching for it. This book is a really great tool. And if you keep listening to that, like when they tell me to do things, I do it. I
Mm,
listen. I go for the thing. Even if it doesn't make sense to me, like, hey, you need to break up with that person, I will do it.
Yeah.
You need to move there, I will do it. So it's like that undeniable trust
Yeah.
is what's helped that connection and bond grow even more.
And following those, inklings that we get when we're not so tapped into it, but it can come through as an inkling, or, yeah, like I just need to go and do this bushwalk, or I need to go into that shop, like things like that. That's a pulling of onto your that path or talk to a person.
Yeah. So when I get spirit communication or it's like my higher self, honestly, they don't seem that different to me. Well, my higher self doesn't really give me visions. That's more from spirit, and it like comes in not just as like a random thought that you would have. It's like it comes in externally as a vision to my third eye. Like I know it's not mine. I don't know how I know that, but I know that I didn't originate it. And then I'll get downloads of feelings in my body with information. The clear sentience of clear knowing information, or I mean clear feeling, but also clear cognizance. I'll just know information, and that's how it comes in. But it how people can tell the difference between like intuition and like gut feeling or instinct. Intuition doesn't have emotions connected to it. It's just straightforward. It's fact. It doesn't have a storyline. There's nothing attached to it. It's just what it is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't, yeah, there's no agenda and there's no ruminating like people, yeah, would say to me. And, in conversations I've had, it's like, well, what's the difference between a regular thought? Um, or if I ruminate on something that I think I want to do, is that my intuition telling me? And I'm like, well, if you're ruminating on it, then no, that's just your ego and that's just your brain just trying to convince you of something. It's like if it comes in and it doesn't have an agenda or well, it has love. Like the path is love. Like, so there is no agenda with love. It's just like if you follow this and it comes in a beautiful, loving way. And that's how, yeah, I've discerned it. And for me, I hear it come in different field, in different parts of my field as well. So it's noticing when different information comes in at different points. And like you say, sometimes you get that full whoosh in your third eye, and then sometimes it's a voice from behind, and I'm like, is that an ancestor? Then give it, if they come through from that same space, is it an ancestor? And if it's, a download, it literally feels like it's coming down. These different ways that we can feel into.
That's exactly it. I was going to say, coming up with a language of identification. That was something that I did starting off when I first started trying to communicate with spirit more. It's like, okay, people around my age come in at this level, like right at face level, and then parents come up like a little bit higher, grandparents come up here, and then my guides and stuff, more spiritual beings come in up here, and then like entities might be on this side, and but my spiritual team are going to be on this side.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And do you feel like you're declaring that? And so when it comes in, or that's the feeling that you've gotten and that's how you've placed it?
It's something that I've worked with my spirit guides to create a system. And that's something that this book actually helps you do too. I'm like, am I selling her book or am I selling my book?
Yeah.
But seriously though, for all of us on this journey, like I wish someone had told me this earlier on, but I learned it exactly when I was meant to. But this is where I learned, oh, you can make a pact, a agreement with your spirit team that are watching you create this list of, okay, I have done X, Y, and Z. I'm good with symbols and all of this stuff. This is how you can tell the spirits how to best communicate with me. This is my language for here. I want parents to come in here. I want grandparents to come up here, right? Like you can tell them to have spirit communicate with you in certain ways so that you understand them better, because everybody, you are helping them, right? And they're helping you, and so clear communication would be beneficial for everyone. So if you can do that and straightforward set things out, everybody wins.
That is a big point. That is a big thing to cultivate. I would highly recommend, yeah, definitely
Well,
to
I think
cultivate that.
people with
Yeah.
people with spirit, I've noticed they're just grateful for spirit to be there,
Mhm.
that they don't ask anything or say anything at first. There's like a little bit of hesitation of like, I think I'm just supposed to sit here and like honor them, which
Mm.
like, yes, also if they are not your spiritual, well, your spiritual team's probably been trying to contact you since you were a baby, so they would love it if you asked something. And you know, spirits just wandering around that need help would appreciate if you ask them because they would like help too. So it's like we need to talk to them more and ask questions and give directions, and we can say, hey, I don't want you to show me through, you know, a full body apparition. That scares me. Don't show me that way.
Yeah.
Show me in my mind.
Yeah, show me in a different way. Yeah, totally. Wow. Yes, that's powerful. Yeah, it's creating the channels, not just allowing the channel to come through and figure it out. It's like these are, yeah, and like you say, writing it down, and they can see you writing it down and speaking it out and declaring it. And even, if you do that a couple of, every morning or something, like until it feels like it's integrated and it feels like it is coming in those ways and from the areas. Yeah, that's powerful. And I had been aware of, yeah, different spaces, but I hadn't been super aware of like cultivating it. So that's, yeah, that's a massive shift for a lot of people when they can integrate that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, how does it not feel more high priestess to like be with your wand and be like, all right, spirit, you know, I would like you to, you know, I I'm setting a boundary. No spirit's allowed to talk to me at this time of night, right? You are not allowed in here until the morning time, right? It's just like simple things like that to take your power back too, to know that just because it's a spiritual realm and is everywhere doesn't mean that it like can take power over you. Because I
Yeah.
think that's the journey too of being a high priestess and being walking both worlds. It's like you have to have boundaries and be in your power, not in an aggressive way, but in this kind of, I go towards Kali Ma, like ferocious, loving, motherly way, but you don't let shit slide,
Mm-mm. Mm.
right?
Exactly.
You're setting the tone.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. And the boundaries. And yeah. And once you give a system, then it will flow. They'll be like, oh, we know how she's going to understand it now. And so, like, yeah, like you say, if you keep, and spirit will try multiple ways to get your attention. And if none of it's working, or you can't, or if, you yourself are confused as to what the message is, then yeah, speak it and refine it. That's such a pivotal moment. And for me, and I'm sure for many people, that's big. I want both of those books. I definitely want your book, and I want that other book now too.
Go for it. We're both gonna help. I mean, this book changed my world I'm not an evidential medium and I don't say that I am, but it definitely helped me build up my skills to where it's like I'm getting information very clearly, often visions, downloads, especially when I talk to people.
Mm-mm-mm. Amazing, amazing. And that part of the embodiment that you were talking about earlier about dancing and that you love dance, and part of the high priestess is dancing and movement. And it's all part of like being in the body. Like we are a human, and sometimes it can be hard to be here, but how has movement really helped you? And where did you find that practice of movement, and when did that come in and help you transition things?
Yeah, luckily I've always been connected to dance.
Mm.
And even as a little girl, I was in like ballet and tap, and eventually that moved into hip hop, which got me into hip thrusting and like, whoo, because that's a big part of being a priestess is opening up your root chakra, right? That is your portal to your divine portal of creation. It's connected to your throat chakra, opening up that space to do magic, to connect with spirit is really important. And so, but I didn't realize that until I was in various witch schools. And anytime we would do a ritual, it was like a lot of hip rocking, a lot of dancing, a lot of movement. And um, being in therapy school, I was learning about like dance therapy and movement therapy and all non-linguistic programming and all of this stuff. And so that kind of took me on a different journey. And so definitely sometimes there are certain emotions I will feel or certain things that will come up where I absolutely will be like, I need to dance this out. I don't,
Yeah.
when it's disconnected from a story or a narrative, and maybe I'm feeling something collective, right? And I've been feeling that a lot more recently since the age of Aquarius
Mm.
shift. It's like I will get these like blows of energy and emotion that I know aren't mine because there's no story, there's no reason why it's coming up. It's not something I super connect with on an individual place, but it's overwhelming in my body.
Mm.
And those things, like whether it's sadness or rage, that's when I'll move my body, right? And with rage, it's also movement of the body of like how intensely can I move myself so that that fire energy can build and release. Um, but when I am moving, it's always a concentrated practice where even though I'm focused on feeling and how my body's moving, it's always with the goal to release it down into the earth to be transmuted into pure potential.
Mm, mm, mm.
I always am telling my energy where to go. And I think some people get into it and forget to tell energy where to go. We forget that being the high priestess, being in our power, we have to tell, direct things. We are
Mm.
the director of the show.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. And, when those lower density emotions can come in, they can be paralyzing when we get into anxiety and depression, like paralyzing anxiety. And I've had selective mutism before, and I've had paralyzing anxiety where you just feel so numb and like
Yeah.
you can't move, you can't actually physically move your body. And so if we can train ourselves before you get into that, like if you can feel it coming, then go for a run or dance or get on the trampoline. If you've got kids who've got a trampoline, mum's out there on the trampoline again by herself.
Yeah.
It works. Shift it before it anchors. And when you learn, when things start to come on, you can feel it before it fully gets there, and it's recognizing that rising of whatever that is before it fully takes you over and shifting it before you get there. How do you, yeah, feel about?
Yeah, exactly. And what you're talking about, so I call that shadow programming. And that's when it's generational programming or ancestral that's been passed down of this. I mean, it's societal programming too, where we've all been programmed to deny our feelings, emotions, avoid, deny that we need help or need anything, that we don't need to calm ourselves down, that there's nothing to, we gaslight the fuck out of ourselves. So um, that's just something that in shadow is going to come on anyways. That's your backup autopilot. And so it's a matter to be aware of that when we're going into situations that involve our emotions. And if we are not the best at responding to our emotions or providing ourselves with our own needs, then we have to be on even heightened, a greater heightened sense of, okay, this is what I'm working with. I have to bring in some statements that help validate my feelings, how I'm feeling, right? Because we want to break up that program, replacing it with a new one that does honor your feelings, that does see, oh, I'm feeling anxious. I need to help myself. Not, oh, I'm feeling anxious. No, you don't, bitch. Stop. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Mm-mm. Yeah,
Right?
totally.
You know, like how we've all been programmed to do.
Mm-mm.
And so I think that's the biggest thing of like, just can we be real with ourselves and be honest and be like, yeah, I don't feel good. I'm feeling really anxious. I need to cancel that plan later. I can't do it.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
I need to take care of myself. I need to erase the end of my evening or the rest of work. I need to go home. I need to take care of myself.
Mm-mm. Totally. And there's a feeling of perfectionism that comes in when we're trying to be so perfect in everything that we're doing that, there is a fear of being messy. And so we just keep on going and we don't cancel our day and we keep staying at work and we want to just, have the facade of being held together, and it's really trapping even more those layers when they're coming up and we push them down. Well, you do that so many times, it's just that's where the layers of repression just really keep things stuck. So when things are showing you that they're ready to come up, and I feel that with clients in the past, I've really noticed and realized, and some of the training that I've done is like when you learn new techniques or understand new things, then it actually allows space for things to come up. So, but because you've learnt those things, you're actually more equipped. And so, yeah, when they come up, you can look at them better and process them more. So, yeah, like going down this path, it is going to get messy and those things are going to come up.
Yeah. And so one tip I can give people, it's like, yes, knowing it's going to get messy, allowing yourself to get messy. But what's interesting is people don't want to allow themselves to get messy because of whatever things that other people are going to say about them, how they're going to be judged, right? Which means themselves, how they're going to judge themselves, how they're going to make themselves feel, what they're going to say to themselves, because that's what's been programmed in, right? And it's just like shadow program after shadow program that you are dismantling all of it. And that's why this work is so hard, and why I tell people, like, be gentle with yourself. You are going against thousands of years of programming. This is not just you. You are not the problem. It is all of the generations before. Not that we're blaming them because they didn't know any better, but we have the glorious and huge responsibility and option to literally change our DNA and remove all of this trauma, but also removing it and releasing all of our deceased ancestors, all future ancestors that haven't even been born yet. Like, there's so many elements to this, but something you can really do to help yourself is like find coping and grounding skills. So I have on my website, I have a resources page that lists a bunch of free ones. There's audio guided meditations. There's various breath work stuff, other many different things. Okay. And so what I encourage people to do is create a toolkit. There's a daily check-ins list on there that anybody can download. It will teach you how to every single day when you wake up, or even multiple times a day would be even better. But like, how am I feeling? What's my mood? What am I needing? If I need a grounding skill, what grounding skill am I going to use? How do I feel after? Have I eaten? What happened yesterday? What, like, helping you understand your emotions, what you need emotionally. But with that, you're learning, because if you're doing this every day, you're like, okay, I'm sad. I'm at like a 7 right now. And then you try all these different grounding and coping skills, and you realize, like, oh, when I'm sad, actually the thing that helps me the most is just like holding myself and rocking, just accepting it coming out of me. And sometimes it helps to be hugged by somebody else too, as I'm just like working through things and being kind to myself. Now, for if I'm mad, I might do a rage release, and that's what's the most supportive thing for me. When I'm feeling depressed, you know, doing some body movement, dancing, grounding with nature, that is what helps me ground in and feel the best too, with some breath work, right? Like, we want a fast track toolkit for all of your emotions. What helps you ground and get to a regulated nervous system state so that you can do this work? Because that builds a window of tolerance, which means longer time periods to withstand discomfort so that you can move through this journey in the way that you are wanting to.
Yeah, beautifully said, definitely. And so that,
So,
cultivating again and knowing yourself, know thyself, the oracle at Delphi, that maxim that is so important to embody. And that is, the high priestess is, know thyself. And you can really feel into, flowing from your heart space when you know that, and you can connect into your heart and know when those feelings are coming up, and what they're showing you, and how, that's just so beautiful.
so one other thing, I forgot to say it. So when doing like the coping and grounding skills, it's really important to practice more than when you are upset. Like
Mm.
when you're chill, when you're just sitting there on the couch, when you are like about to go to bed, practice these things. Because what that does, it builds it into your shadow. So it builds it into your subconscious mind for easy retrieval. When things are practiced frequently, we remember. When we practice something or we learn we can do something, but then we get triggered, we will not have access to it. So
Yeah.
you will not know how to help yourself. You will not know that you can do this thing. Even if you've done it 7 times, you won't fucking know. So you have to practice it to where it just comes out like you are a police officer and you know the drill, or EMS, and you're just like, you can do it without thinking, because it's just like, oh, I know how to. And then what a wonderful feeling, like, oh, I trust myself. I take care of me. Like,
Mm.
I know how to help myself. I don't need, X, Y, and Z people to help me. Like, for the first time in my life, I'm showing up for myself. I've never had anybody do that. Like, I'm the best parent I've ever had,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? Like,
Setting yourself
that's,
up to succeed, setting yourself up yeah, to
yeah.
succeed.
And then your shadows in turn are like, oh my God, thank you for taking care of us. We've needed you this whole time.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. Such a beautiful, yeah, aspect. And it's not like I'm going to do shadow work on Mondays or whatever. It's like it's a constant, it's a constant process that is, integrating into our daily with regulating your nervous system and yeah, all those aspects of creating the channels for your guides to speak to you, creating the signatures of your coping mechanisms and what it means to you, and programming your unconscious, supporting yourself when you're, yeah, when you're feeling good, program yourself with that as well. That is a big aspect, definitely. Yeah, that is powerful.
Yeah. I think the more grounded we are, even though that is not the goal to be grounded 100% of the time, our nervous system does its job. It's meant to tell us if danger is coming, right? Like, we need that alarm bell. We are going to get upset. We're going to get triggered. That's life,
Hmm.
right? But in this world of duality, but with the body.
Hmm.
But I mean, yeah, there's a lot to it, but yeah. So I think that as long as everybody just shows up in the best way that they can, as much as they can for themselves, kind of breaking that pattern of the sick model of only helping ourselves when we are beyond needing it,
Yeah.
when our nervous system and body is screaming at us for help.
When you're right in the pit, right? Yeah, don't, yeah.
Like, we're not trying to go to the doctor when we have pneumonia. Okay. Like, we want to go when we're getting sniffles,
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah. Mm, mm, mm.
right? We want to start helping ourselves with teas and stuff like that. Like, that's where we start self-care. Like, oh, I'm starting to, oh, okay, I'm feel grounded, but I'm just gonna start tapping and see what that feels like. And then you're gonna feel really calm and be like, wow,
Mm.
helps with anxiety. Okay, I'm gonna try that again later and see what that's like and see how it affects you at different stages.
Mm, mm. It's workshopping yourself and being objective as well, and being able to kind of like look at your cycles as well, and be able to not berate yourself within it. It's like it happened. Whatever you've gone through has led you to where you need to be, and if you're, feeling those berating cycles that are coming in, it's like being kind to ourselves in our process, and just understanding that,
Didn't
we
do anything wrong.
yeah, yeah.
You didn't do it wrong. I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, there's nothing wrong that you did. You experienced this and you were in this because you're meant to be. You're meant to learn this lesson. Lessons are beautiful. That's why we're here. So it's like, oh, let's have some gratitude for like being here for why we're here. Like, I'm
Yeah.
so sorry we've been asleep for so long that we forgot. And it's like, yeah, it's a little bit more work than what we thought. But hey, like, the levels of freedom and abundance it can give you and joy and just
Mm.
spiritual connection, it's worth it.
Oh, it totally is. It totally is. And once you get to that point of feeling integrated and knowing how to, regulate yourself past things that are coming up, it flows and the path opens up. And then, when your guidance systems come on board, then those synchronicities come through and then the flow, it just flows. And yeah, it really is, yeah, a beautiful
When we
path.
can get out of the way,
Yeah.
spirit can come in.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. But yeah, it is all those shadow aspects that are holding, that packing down that Kundalini energy and not allowing that beautiful rising. So when we can alchemize those lower states, then that Kundalini awakening can happen as well, and we can feel integrated and all of those beautiful things. So yeah.
And I want to say to people, because if you are like me, if there's anybody out there who, you've done a lot of shadow work or you've done a lot of healing and you're still experiencing blocks, it's probably shadow that you cannot access yourself. You may not be working with or speaking to somebody who can help you access that. And you may or may not need a shamanic healing to release, have some sort of extraction, removal of past energies, past curses, any kind of things that might be preventing you from fully stepping into your authenticity or your purpose or love, whatever. Like I had many things blocking me from past lives that I knew based off of everything that I was doing in this life that there was something else that I needed to dig deeper and receive greater help than what I could do.
Mm, 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 mm. And that's it, yeah. And it feels deeper and beyond yourself, and those cycles that really perpetuate a lot, yeah, feeling beyond that and getting that other help, and if it's generational or past life, and like you say, getting those, yeah, bits of wisdom that can come in through practitioners. And sometimes we have that overwhelm of like, who is the person that's going to help me perfectly? And then we don't trust ourselves on that flow and that path. And so asking spirit to put, that in front of you, and utilizing that to be like, who is going to help me? Where is this going to come from? And, you know, and then just letting
Asking
go.
questions. They're
Yeah.
like, please ask us. All of you have guides. We're called guides for a reason. We're here to guide you. Please ask us questions. We will not help you unless you ask us for help.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Oh, this has been a beautiful conversation, Courtney. Thank you so much for being here again today. Yeah.
Having me. This was a lot of fun. And I always look forward to these
Yeah,
chats with you. Seeing your face.
me too. Definitely. Is there I mean, you've taken so much wisdom, but is there anything else from the High Priestess that comes through as just like anything else before we wrap up our chat today?
I think even though it's important to do shadow work as like an integration process, because we're always trying to see like, oh, this new thought or behavior that I'm wanting to integrate in, like I need to be mindful of that. I need to be aware, right? But it's important, spirits having me say like, don't go dig in the depths every single day. Don't do it. You need to take breaks. Everything is not dark and depressing all the time. Don't get stuck in shadow. Don't get stuck in the darkness. That's not why we're even given this. um I almost want to call it like an initiation because it's kind of what it feels like each time. But yeah, just you don't have to always be in like serious darkness and shadow all the time. You can be doing shadow work and not be in the dark depths. And also, like, if you've been in the dark depths for a while, like, go out, leave your house, like, go be around people, go be social and not think about shadow work for a second. Like, it's very isolating work. And so, like, we have to remember how important community is, especially priestess community and being with other like minded people. And that's just going to continue to pour light
Mm.
into yourself, but also allow your light and abundance to shine even greater. And so, like, that's something if you feel like you've been disconnected to find those connections again.
You feel yourself in the light, allow yourself to feel light and follow that as well. And yeah, I love that's a beautiful,
What
beautiful.
was hard for me.
Yeah.
My last big lesson was like unconditional love, and I couldn't have done that unless I'd gone on retreat with all those ladies right before I got the activation, like days before. Um, this group of 43 women unlocked my unconditional love, and then I'm like radiating at this level, and I get this activation. It's like, but I had been alone for like almost 8 months, and it's like I needed that. I could not have done that without community, without sisterhood. So it's like,
Mhm.
it's just so important
Yeah. Beautiful
on this
point.
journey.
Yeah. Beautiful point to finish on, especially since we're here in this community of Order of the Dark Moon is celebrating the people who are, present in the Facebook group here and engaging and sharing their knowledge and wisdom. So you are on social media as well. So definitely, Courtney, when we get off the call, if you want to drop all of the links you've got to your Amazon and website and anything else in the Facebook group underneath. And yeah, thank you so much. Yeah,
Much. And yes, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. And
yeah.
yeah, thank you
Send
so
lots
much.
of love. Yeah, send Courtney lots of love in the comments, and yeah, appreciate you and the work you're doing in the world. So thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you for everything you're doing and bringing this wonderful group together and creating this beautiful community. Oh, I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank
And
you. Proud of you too. Amazing. Yeah, it's amazing when you witnessing others' journeys and sharing it all together. It's beautiful. Amazing. Cool. Sending you on your day, and look forward to connecting again soon. All right.
bye, everyone.
Bye.